Welcome back to the Football Fitness Federation podcast. This is episode 213. I'm delighted to be joined on the podcast today by Scott Wickens. Scott is the lead sports scientist at Yeovil Town. Scott, thanks for coming on the podcast.
All right, mate, you good?
I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. Thanks for giving up a bit of time and coming on. I know you got a bit of a later start today, so you've got up early, got in there, and you gave us some of your time, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, looking forward to it. Yeah, got to do it.
Top man. Well, Scott, I think you've listened to a few of these before, so you probably know the sort of structure of them all probably better than me. But can you just take us back through your career so far? I've just mentioned your role at Yeovil, but just give us a little bit of background on yourself, mate.
Yeah, it's not a long one. I'm 23 next week, so I'm not the oldest. Normal growing up. Yeah, I went to school. I played for Torquay Academy till I was 14. They got relegated out of League Two down to National League, and as it went down and down, the academy shut. Yeah, cost saving that happened. I was only 14 type thing. A couple of the coaches went over to Plymouth Argyle, which is where I'm from Plymouth. They took me over with them, so I was there till I was about 16. Didn't make the cut. Probably wasn't good enough. Looking back on it, it was good at the time, but probably wasn't going to be good enough. My age group was a good age group for that. So we had a couple of lads still playing for the first team there now. So yeah, it was a good schooling. Left that, went back to school, sixth form type thing, normal route, then go back into football. Played men's football local, yeah, step 5 sort of thing. Then went to uni, Cardiff Met. Did a degree, yeah, sport and exercise science, as most of us do. Did that and really enjoyed it. Hit by COVID, middle of my second year, so it was kind of living at home. I was living with my missus. I was doing this, that, and the other. I was all over the shop really. Wales was a bit of a different lockdown procedure, so kind of coming home was different rules. So I was going back to Wales. But yeah, really enjoyed it. The football setup there, as I'm sure a few people that have been there and heard of it know. Really good setup. Welsh Prem, Bucks Ones type thing. Good uni experience. Never really broke into the team. It's kind of in Bucks One squads and stuff, but I never really got into it. Left, and then I think I graduated in May. Started here in the July. Started pre-season last year, and yeah, I'm sure we'll go into it, but chucked into the deep end type thing. So yeah, I've never did an academy role and nothing like that. Straight into first team football, which I think has held me in good stead. Which I've really enjoying it here. It's been brilliant. Again, we'll go into it. I've had a few staff members, but yeah, everything's been brilliant with me. So yeah, really enjoying it.
Brilliant. And just touch on it, Scott, because obviously it's an area of the country where, like, me being from the Northwest, we're surrounded by clubs. In a small area, you've got all sorts of clubs at all different levels. Down there, you haven't really, have you? They're much more spread out, and there's not as many options. So what was the sort of thought process around that? Was it, I'm just going to have to take what I can get, or I'm just going to really work hard at getting in a club local to me?
So there was no real pathway when I was in my second year, third year, thinking, oh, I'll do an internship here and then I'll promote and get up and up sort of thing. Obviously, COVID, we didn't really have that internship structure in your third year or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of the Yeovil job come up. I applied. There wasn't a lot of applicants, if I'm honest, because of where it is. Like you say, there's not a lot of clubs around here, so the jobs are either already filled or there's not a lot of people that want them. But obviously, yeah, being from Plymouth, it's an hour and a half from me. Being up here, so it's not too bad of a commute or anything like that. So yeah, saw it, applied. I had a couple of interviews with the manager at the time, and come in, did a couple of sessions over the summer break. A couple of lads come back from injury, trying to get ready for pre-season. So it's nice to come in and kind of have one-to-ones as an interview process type thing. So yeah, like I said, really enjoyed it. And obviously, when the chance come up, it's not one that I was going to turn down.
And just a bit of context in terms of the level that Yeovil playing at currently, if there's anyone that's either not from the UK or not aware of the sort of league that they're in, where are they at the moment?
So we're in the National League, just the 5th tier of English football. You're in teams with Wrexham, Notts Counties. There's a few big boys around here. But then not too long ago, Yeovil were a big boy in the champ. So it's not as if we're a million miles away in terms of we've never been up there. We never know what it's been like. The fans still expect stuff. The staff that have been here throughout, the kit man's still been here since the championship days. So there's still a good aspect of where the club can be, because it is a big club, and like you say, it's the only professional club in Somerset. So it's a big area, it's a big draw. There's not a lot of clubs down here. So if you can get players down there, it's a good level to be at.
Because it's a surprising bit as well, because like you mentioned, the club previously being in a league like Championship and the other leagues along the way as well, that when a job comes up, even though the club are National League now, obviously setting the sights, I'm guessing, on getting back up the leagues, like you'd imagine there'd be, with the amount of applicants going into different jobs, regardless of where it is in the country, you'd think there'd be a lot going for these opportunities as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so I always joke around and say I fell on my feet coming here. I think with COVID and with people coming out of university my sort of age, or 21, 22 at the time, no one had done the internships, no one had done stuff unless it was off your own back in sort of private gyms or anything like that. Because I know when I was applying for clubs, they weren't looking. Or maybe that was because I wasn't good enough at the time, but they weren't really getting back to me or looking or saying we can't have people in that we don't really know and stuff like that. So I think when the job come up, it's kind of, it wasn't advertised massively as far as I'm aware. Kind of saw it on Twitter. I knew a couple of guys from uni that had been here when the academy was open, sort of analysts and coaches and stuff like that, and they said, "Look, it's worth going for it." Sort of speaking around to them. We had a couple of lads help us out last year, come back from the academy, and obviously academy shirt, COVID happened, they've come back and helped out. So yeah, it's like I say, it's a really, really good club. Just yeah, got to find its way again.
100%. I want to get into your role, Scott. So can you give us a little bit of an insight into some of the main responsibilities and roles that you have as lead sports scientist?
So yeah, lead sports scientist, I'm the only one. It's a one-man department at the minute. When I first come in, there wasn't a sports science department before me. It was kind of I got given a free rein to kind of set my own department up and see how I wanted to do it. Essentially, it's anytime they aren't on the ball, but they're at the club. So it's gym, hydration, nutrition, recovery, anything like that. If they're not on the grass after the warm up, everything up to that point is surrounded by your GPS stats, everything loading. We kind of look at how we can get the most out of the players in the time we've got when they're not on the ball. So yeah, nutrition, hydration. Yeah, there's a lot of hats.
There's also a lot of unofficial hats as well, isn't it, that you'll be wearing along the way?
There's a
We
few.
won't touch on them in this episode, but anyone in a similar sort of role will get the idea. You just talked about going into the role and then not previously being sports science support in place. So what was the approach to that? So what was the sort of big rocks so you were like, right, I've got to have X, Y, and Z in place as soon as possible to try and support the players?
Yeah, so it's kind of my MO was a high injury rate the year before. So it was, how can we get the players as available as possible for as many minutes as possible for as long as possible throughout the season. They kind of sporadically wore GPS, but it was kind of the physio at the time was doing it. He wasn't as well equipped to deal with that, so he was doing his physio work, and he was kind of doing 15 jobs at once type thing. So the GPS was sporadic, and kind of loading management and stuff was kind of not guessed, but it wasn't backed up by anything. So kind of, right, we're just going to find GPS. I know people have varying views on that, coaches and stuff, but it's a tool to use, so we might as well use it. And it doesn't dictate every single aspect of day to day, but it's a good tool to have. So we went and got GPS in. We went and put a good sort of strength program in place.
And just on that, Scott, was there nothing in place in terms of strength training beforehand? Was that from bare bones, or?
Yeah, it was kind of the lads didn't come to me with, this was my plan from last year. It was I kind of go to the gym on like a Tuesday and Thursday if we haven't got a Tuesday game, and I'll do a bit of legs on the Tuesday, a bit of uppers on Thursday, and it was Again, it was being on my own. I couldn't individualize it as much as I wanted to straight away. It was kind of bucketing, as a lot of sports scientists do, a lot of S&C coaches do, kind of bucket the players into what they need, adding in a few new exercises that they hadn't really done before, but I like trap bar deads and stuff. And we've got really lucky, managed to get a partnership with the Nuffield gym, which is only 10 minutes from the ground, so we can book that out and use that and get a proper squad size gym session in place a couple of times a week. The manager at the time, really big on gym. He's not the S&C coach. He wasn't taking it, and there was no one to really lead that. So it's kind of come in, get your loading management, get your S&C as right as we can get it in the first couple of weeks. And then it just built from there, kind of conversations of, we had a few senior boys with a couple of niggling injuries kind of over the years. They might not be able to play Saturday and Tuesday. National League, for those that don't know, sometimes a Saturday, Monday, which is kind of a quick turnaround, which is a headache for a lot of people. I think my first 2 games were Saturday, Monday. You played here at Kings Lynn on Saturday, and then we were up at Aldershot on the Monday, and I was like, what the hell do we do on Sunday? It was kind of that is proper defense stuff, and it was it was just getting in kind of the basics of a sports science, an S&C program of when we've got a chance to do stuff and maximise an opportunity when we do have it. How do we do that? And getting the lads down the gym and getting recovery strategies in place, pool, sauna, everything like that they hadn't really had before. I think if you go back and look at the data, we had less injuries last year than we did the year before I came in. So I'd like to think it worked.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Like, how long did it take for you to start seeing impact? Obviously, you're not going to know across a full season until you've done a full season, are you? But even feedback from the lads, was there anything short term where the lads were sort of saying that they enjoyed this, they didn't enjoy this? Because it can be pretty brutal sometimes, can't they?
Yeah, it was it was a bit of an overhaul as well. So a few of the boys from the year before I came in and retired, and it was a very big senior squad the year before I came in. A couple of younger lads are a bit more manipulative. You can kind of they'll kind of sneak off into the corners and stuff. But once you get a few boys buying in and it's working, I think our captain had played double the amount of games last year than he did the year before. So when your captain's out there for twice the amount of time, automatically people start going, oh, something's happening, something's going right, sort of thing. We had a couple of big injuries really early on in pre-season. I think we had a grade 3 hamstring. Just one of them. Can't really, looking back at the data and everything beforehand, there was nothing we could have really done to not predict it, but it'd come out of the blue. We had a broken foot when it was that was a 4-month job. It was kind of on 2 key players at a time, which is a bit of again, deep end. It was kind of, how do they deal with that straight away? We lost our star striker type thing and our starting right back. So it's kind of how do you then manage other people around that? Because people you weren't expecting to get many minutes towards the end of pre-season suddenly are playing 90s and starting the season and going on games of 4, 5, 6 in the first couple of weeks. So it was a good learning curve straight away.
So you just brought up a couple of key, because we're going to talk about some challenges that you face in your role. A couple of key ones are obviously fixtures and the timing of fixtures as well in the league. And then also injuries and player availability. So what was initially with the fixtures, like with this demand of fixtures, which is crazier than ever at the moment, leading into the World Cup for a lot of people, but just generally in a lot of other leagues, the fixtures are a bit crazy, of a bit of a backlash of COVID and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
What's your thought process, or even how have things developed with your mindset around dealing with these demands of the games that are coming at less ideal times?
So I think the players probably won't agree with me, but last year I was a bit sort of modest with my lads that hadn't played or come on for half an hour. I was kind of a bit modest with, let's wrap them up and bubble wrap because they might be needed next week. They might be needed on Monday. They might be needed on Tuesday. I kind of didn't progress them as much as I probably could have at the time, looking back. So your runs were a little bit more, like I say, modest, because you think, I don't want to burn them out on the Saturday after the game if they just played half an hour. You'd probably get another rep out of them, probably get another 1,500 meters out of them after in your runs type thing.
Yeah.
But then, like you say, as you get time off over the summer, you're coming into this season, you can kind of know that they can deal with a lot more than you kind of assume. So your distance can be a bit higher. You can work them a little bit harder. We've started taking, I spoke to a few people over the summer, we started taking gym equipment away for away days and home games and stuff. So if you don't play, it's a chance to run and get a proper loading session in as well. Because like you say, with the fixtures coming thick and fast, although squad sizes are different to those in the Premier League type thing, well, you have to rotate at some point. Players are going to have to play, so they need to be ready. And in order to get them ready, we can't wrap them up and bubble wrap. They have to load, they have to run, they have to be ready to perform in a couple of days' time if they need to. And it could be the morning of the game. If you play on Saturday, Monday, the morning of the game, the squad changes from the night before because people haven't recovered properly, or they woke up with this and it'll niggle or whatever, and all of a sudden you're chucked in the deep end. I keep saying it, but playing 90 minutes and you have to be ready. So you can kind of, I've started to push the boundaries a little bit more, and it seems to be working in terms of player load and how our muscle injuries and stuff like that for lads that haven't played and coming in seems to be working, I'd like to think.
And with that strength emphasis on a game day for players that haven't played as many minutes, what was the initial reaction to players, but also coaches as well? Because for some that can probably appear scary without the education, can it?
Yeah, so we had a couple of lads coming from Bournemouth over the summer. players wise, and they load after games there, so they were kind of bought into it straight away.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, maybe not for them, they weren't involved in squads as much as they probably like to be.
Right.
So they were the ones who were doing it straight off the bat. So it was quite nice to. It was kind of a contingency plan for them that they already know they had to do it, so they were doing it anyway. And when you saw results when they started playing games, I think the staff kind of bought into it as well. But yeah, like I say, the staff are brilliant with me. Anything like that, they kind of buy in and say, as long as I can justify it, they're more than happy to let it happen, type thing. So we don't take much. We take a couple of 20 kg plates. We got a sandbag. I think it's 25, 30 kilos of sandbag. Yeah, we can do Bulgarians. We can do loaded jumps, everything like that. It's good. Yeah, it's a nice way to get sort of a different exposure in, rather than just running a straight line on a Saturday afternoon.
So did those players coming in having that experience, and especially being at, I'm guessing they were Premier League at that point as well, coming from Bournemouth, did that make it a little bit easier for you to push the reasoning, the education to the rest of the players?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, we're lucky we got a gym at the stadium as well. So home games, I think, one of them was going in there off his own bat anyway. Sort of pre-season games he was loading afterwards, just because that was his routine.
Yeah.
And he's in good condition. He hits good scores. He's strong. So the lads are kind of buying into it when they see. We keep talking about buy-in. Everyone talks about buy-in. When you see other players doing it and getting results out of it, you start to get a little group doing it, and then the group gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think because they were kind of expecting it and they were in that routine anyway, once 2 or 3 jump on, the bandwagon gets a bit bigger.
It's what Damien Hughes refers to as cultural architects, isn't it? And I've heard, I think it was Phil Neville talked about it when he went to Everton, that he started doing his extra gym work, and it was very strange for the majority of the squad, but then gradually just got more and more doing it. By the end of it, everyone was doing it, and it does just take those few, doesn't it, just to get the ball rolling a little bit, and then it can have the knock-on effect.
Yeah, it's always good when you see results as well. So it's not as if like they're doing it on the Saturday and then they get chucked in on the Tuesday and they get injured, because players automatically think, well, they did gym on Saturday. That's why. I keep saying to them, you train on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So there's no difference from doing it Saturday to Tuesday type thing. It's just a different day in your head, but you see Saturday as a game day. If you haven't played, it's not a game day for you. It's another training day, essentially. So it's another day to get another load in, prep for the Tuesday, because then all of a sudden it becomes match day -3, match day -2, whatever it is. It's just a different format for you. Just because you see Saturday as a match day, if you haven't played, it's not a match. It's not a match day. It's another training day.
Yeah, 100%. That's a good way of framing it, isn't it, for players? Scott, you just mentioned 23 in a first team environment. You're going to be coming across conversations with some other directors at the club and other people working for the club that you obviously have to know how to speak to people and how to talk their language. We speak about it a lot, don't we, on the podcast? How have you found that? How have you found that those conversations? Have you found that you've learned any big lessons along the way from that sort of thing as well?
So the first manager I had here had previously been head of academy at Watford. So kind of, I always say it, and I was saying it to him at the time, my first conversations with managers was his 500th conversation with sports scientists.
Yeah.
So he's been there, done it. He's had the conversations, he's had the arguments, he's had the debates, and my first one was his 500th one or whatever it was. So he was very, very good for me straight off the bat. So he said, "Yeah, this is your prerogative. You go and set up the department as you want it. If I don't like it, I'll say, but I'm not going to tell you what to do, because that's why I've hired you. I'm not. If I wanted to be a sports scientist, I'd be a sports scientist type thing." So he was really, really good for me. Like I say, directors, we had a change. A couple of directors come in this season, and they have a really big buy-in just from an interest point of view. It's not going to affect anything. It's not going to affect deals or anything like that. But they're interested in GPS stats after a Saturday. They come straight in the office after the game and how far do you run? What are they? Because they're interested. They're fans at the end of the day as well. I always see it as kind of an Instagram algorithm type thing. So we've got the data, but a manager is going to want to see certain stuff. A director is going to see certain stuff. Fans are going to want to see other stuff. The infographics at the end of the game, or players are going to see certain stuff. So if we all follow the same people on Instagram, we still get a different man at the top of the screen. The first picture will still be different because my algorithm is different to everyone else's. So as a practitioner, it's about how can you fit their algorithm type thing. So directors might want to know who run the quickest, but players might want to know who run the quickest, but managers want to know who run the furthest, heat map, stuff like that. It's not about who's quickest. It's not. They're all got their own sort of ideas of what what the leaderboard should look like. So yeah, even the other staff might, like, come back from injury. They've got certain metrics that they want to see, the physios, the doctors, stuff like that. They want to see their own metrics compared to the players, the owners, the directors, everything like that. So it's quite good for me to have to adapt the information I've got to give it out. So you'd always have the info. It's just what you think they want to hear. And as different managers come in, they want to see different metrics, and they've worked with different people that have done different things. So it's all, yeah, as long as you've got a couple of feathers in your hat, it's kind of which ones to pick out and show, and you kind of get to know pretty quickly what they want to see and what they want to do.
I love that analogy, mate. That is class. The algorithm is absolutely brilliant. The other thing is on that, though, was that just obvious to you from the start that different stakeholders wanted to speak about different things and things had to be presented in different ways? Because that's quite a, I don't mean this to sound disrespectful at all, but it's quite a mature way of going about it, isn't it? In terms of like that's what someone who's been in a sports science role for a number of years, that's the way they probably act. Whereas there'd be a lot of people listening to this, and I'm trying to think, when I was 23, I would not have thought like that. It would have just been a case of, wow, they're speaking to me. Whereas you've gone about it in a completely different way and thought, right, what do they want? And you've given them what they want, and you've put it in a way that they want to see it as well. So it's a very mature way of going about it. Did that just seem obvious to you?
A little bit. So I kind of started with when the GPS come in, it was more of a to get buy-in from players, because players have worn GPS for the last 5, 10, 15 years. They've seen it, they've done it. It's a bit of a hindrance to them. It's, oh, I've got to put my unit on, I've got to do this. It's kind of a, especially when you haven't had it the season before, it comes back, and they've done it their whole career, some of them, the young lads, but it's just a bit of a niggle for them to have to go, oh, I've got to put my unit on, I've got to give it a Scotty. So it's kind of a, right, okay, well, let's do, when we do our sprint exposure in the week, on the pre-ab the following morning, let's put the scores up on telly and stuff and get a buzz around it and stuff like that. And it's kind of as soon as you do that 2 or 3 times and you start digging people out a little bit and having a bit of fun with it, they start buying into it straight away, because the next time you do sprint exposure, they want to know it before you even got back in from training, type thing. I think directors and stuff like that, it's quite a good club here. So I'm literally opposite the manager's office. Directors come down before and after games, say hello, and yeah, it's quite a nice environment to be in that way. Get to chat to directors on a lot throughout the week. They're here every day. Kind of, they're always around. So the more you speak to them, you kind of get a gist of what they want anyway. So they say, even their analysis of the game. So rather than he played really well, they start going, well, he looks quick, and you think, oh, hold on, they want to see sprint scores, or he looks like he ran a lot, or he must be tired. And hold on, they want to see total distance scores, or high speed running, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just having conversations, you kind of get a gist of what their interests are from a personal point of view before a performance point of view. So I lay out our GPS stats as I get little photos of the players up for a 1-page document, kind of report after the games, put them in the formation, scores and everything, and then I do like an average. So say you ran 11k and your average over the season is 10.5, that'll go down as 102% of your average or whatever it is, and do leaderboards for speed, total distance, stuff like that. So it's kind of a 1-page report of everything.
Yeah.
And then as the directors want to see stuff, you can kind of start taking stuff out of that report, or the manager wants to see stuff, you can start adding a bit more in. The staff reports might be a bit more detailed because they want to see more metrics and Excel, details, stuff like that. But directors just want to see the big rocks type thing. How far do they run? How quick do they do it? Yeah, maybe a heat map run in there just for some interest and sort of pique a new conversation. I wouldn't say it come obvious, but kind of the more you do it, you kind of get a gist for who wants to see what. And it's quite nice when you get some buy-in and they come and ask you for it. You're doing half the right thing.
I was just about to say that when they start asking questions around it and directing those questions a little bit more specifically, rather than just, oh, so-and-so played well, like you just mentioned before, that's a real positive for yourself, isn't it? Because they're obviously really valuing the work that you're doing, and they're taking a lot of information on board from you.
Yeah, it's definitely, that is the feeling I get. It's kind of a good vibe around the sports science department. I say department, it's only me, but yeah, the sports science department. They are asking questions. They do want to know. The players want to know. I always get 5 texts by the time I drive back to Plymouth on a Saturday. I always get 5 texts saying, how far did I run? What did I do? I haven't uploaded. Hang on, I'm still in the car. But yeah, there's always a buzz around it, which is really good.
Brill. Scott, a little bit of advice for the coaches. What would you say the main skill is? If you were to pick out like one key skill in your role, or one key attribute in your role, what would it be, do you think?
I'm quite a big fan of continuity. So I take pride in, I've not missed a session, I've not missed a game since I've been here. Not through illness, not through being away or family or anything like that. Again, I've not missed stuff to be here, but I've not had anything come up that's affected me being here type thing. So I've been here every session, every game. I've had 4 managers since I've been here in 15 months or whatever it is. So the changeover is quite high. 5 if you include me and a player to the last game of last season. So it's kind of a bit of a strange one. And then, yeah, I've had 3 physios as well. So kind of being there every single day, players see the same face every single day. Players have still got to train regardless of who the physio is or who the manager is or who the coaches are. They've still got to train, they've still got to play fixtures. So that continuity of them having their routine set, certain supplements in certain spots and stuff like that, and every single day, if they are they prepared how they normally prepare, regardless of who's in the role, who's doing what, where we're playing, how we're doing in the league, anything like that. Players still prepare the same. So essentially see support staff more than anyone else. So I get more FaceTime with the players than the manager. I get more FaceTime with players with the coaches. So continuity for me is kind of a big rock of, can I be consistent to give them the best opportunity to go and perform and be available, and give the manager as many players as he can to do his job as well, because it's all linked. They still, like I say, they still need to train, they still need to play. So it's being there every single day, doing a proper warm up, doing it right, making sure they're ready to perform, whether that's a head tennis session on a Monday for a recovery day when there's no manager, or match day -1 for an FA Cup round fixture. It doesn't matter. They still got to do it. So you might as well be there and do it properly.
100%. Man, that's quality. I was just about to ask you what it was like getting thrown in at the deep end with a first team, but just before we do that, talk to us about that game, assistant manager. Like that's the ultimate of being thrown in at the deep end, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, internally, they'd agreed the new manager come in for this season, but there was 1 game left. So Charlie Lee, who's a good friend of mine, was kind of taking the team. He left on the Wednesday, and he gave me a ring saying, "Just heads up, they might ask you and Staunton, the skipper, to do it." Okay, I'll wait for that sort of cool type thing. I was kind of sat at home, all right, stay off it. And then now as it developed, kind of last game of the season, it didn't really mean too much in terms of league table or standings or anything like that. So went up to Altrincham, which is a nice easy away day. Get up there, and me and Skipper took the game. He subbed himself on with 20 minutes to go, so it's kind of stand on the touchline your own, going, how the hell have I ended up here? But it was good. We took the 18s manager up, so I've been helping him out this year, kind of being an assistant manager for the 18s as well, kind of getting into the coaching side of it, which I've really enjoyed. He came up and gave us a hand, and it was kind of, we had a young lad on the bench who'd come through our college program. So we stuck him on the bench for last game of the season. I thought I'd give him 5 minutes type thing. So it's kind of nice to get players on and enjoy it as much as I could. Like you say, it was proper defense stuff, trying to do all the sports science and GPS and get all the supplements right. Like I say, continuity, while also going and got to pick a team here. It's kind of like it's a bit of a strange one, but Skipper was great with me, and he's still here now. We still have a laugh and joke around about it, so it was good.
Brilliant. I thought you were going to say he subbed himself on and then you subbed yourself on after.
No chance.
Brilliant, Scott. That's class. But let's touch on that as well, though, because again, being in the first team environment, coming through your education off the back of like playing into the education and then being in the role you're in now, how different does it seem now that you're in it, you know it, to maybe what you expected before? If you were to say, right, you're going to end up in a first team environment, like how different is it?
I love first team football. I love coming in and being able to have a bit of banter with the lads and mess around and start to dig people out, like you say, with test scores and things like that. Just have a laugh and joke around. My academy was a bit of a strange one. So it was kind of like, I'll be honest, I wasn't really in the team when I was 16, 17 either. So I never really had that academy feel, if you know what I mean. So then coming away and coming back into first team football, it's a step up again. I played men's football, like say step 5 or whatever it was at the time. But it's a million miles away from this at the minute, because we're a professional team, we're full time. Like I say, trying to climb up the leagues and stuff like that. It might not happen last year or this year, but that's the intention. Trying to build a league level sports science department in a non-league club is essentially what my MO is. From a personal point of view, I want to build a good standard of this department, which then hopefully feeds out into other stuff. I don't know what an academy sports science department's like. I've been in and sort of seen it and had a chat with a few people and stuff like that, but I've never done it day to day. But I love first team football, and yeah, doing a warm up on a Saturday. I think we got Notts County this week, and they sold 12,000-13,000 tickets, whatever it is. It's kind of like, that's what I get my buzz out of. I might be clinging on to a childhood dream being a footballer, but I get my buzz out of a Saturday afternoon doing a warm up and enjoying it and seeing lads go and perform.
Class. I think there'll be a lot of people that will agree with that, and I'm sure you've heard me talk about it a lot, like the conversation around where coaches are suited. Academy, first team, I don't think it's a natural progression to go from one to another. I fully believe that some are suited for one and some are suited for the other, and there's not that one is better than the other. It's just different personalities and different drivers as well, which is kind of what you've touched on there, isn't it? Like you're preparing for performance, you're preparing for results. Academies is all about development, so it depends on you as a coach and where your values sit, I suppose, as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I kind of get my development kick out of helping the 18s out and stuff like that. I mean, you see stuff you've worked on in training come out in games. I get the coaches buzz off it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you get your development in there, and then we train every day with the first team to get a result on Saturday. It's not, like you say, it's not development at this point. It's how do we best prepare to peak at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon and go and put on a good show and see what we can do. So I get my joy out of that. And then again on Monday. Little beach day on the Friday, try on the Sunday, try and recover. But yeah, that's what we can get into them. Yeah.
Perfect. Scott, that's been class. You know that we finish these with the quick fires.
Yeah.
So we'll tackle these now. So who've been some of the biggest influences on your career so far?
I've had a couple, but no sort of sports science, because I've never had like an internship or anything like that. So it's kind of they've all been coaches for me. So I first come in, was appointed by Darren Sowell, like I said, used to be at Watford, he's now at Woking. His assistant was Terry Skiven, who's now assistant manager at Wimbledon. So they kind of, those two have been around the block. They had conversations with sports scientists. They were very good at setting out a stall for go and do what you want, but if it's wrong, we'll tell you. And it was kind of a good schooling for me in that way. After that, Charlie Lee, like I mentioned earlier, he come in. I think he's now at Leyton Orient in the academy. He was kind of I had a free rein. He said, if you want to design new drills and sessions and stuff that you kind of not reserved to do under different managers or anything like that, but he knew he was here for a certain amount of time. He said, try it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It doesn't really matter. We're not going to, at the point in time he come in, we weren't going to make the playoffs. We weren't going to get relegated. So kind of, we got free rein to kind of, especially Monday, Tuesday, if you've got Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, you can kind of, Thursday, Friday is obviously the big days and you prep properly. But if you can try something on a Monday and try it, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. At least you know.
Yeah.
It was kind of a good blank canvas for me with him. The only other one I'd say was my PE teacher was my biggest influence growing up, sort of thing, in terms of the sporting aspect. His brother was actually my academy coach at Argyle, so that was kind of the link. So it was kind of, he was helping me out day to day in school, in the gym and stuff like that, and kind of being that influence outside of football, still focused towards football, if that makes sense. And then when I left Argyle, he was managing Saltash at the time, step 6, I think it was. So as soon as I left, he got me in there playing first team football regularly. And at 16, playing a men's game at step 5, it was kind of a step 5, 6, whatever it was. Like I say, it was kind of okay, this is what football's about type of thing. It was kind of I still chat to him now quite a lot. Kind of, that was 6-7 years ago now, but I kind of speak to him quite a lot still. He was at Parkway last year when they got promoted, so I went in there and helped them out a little bit with their GPS and stuff. I think Regan Miles was there. He's now at Torquay, so kind of a good link there as well. He's now at Helston. Yeah, he still talks to him weekly, like I say. So it's kind of he was mad on his fitness from a personal point of view. He's PE teacher, so I saw him 3 or 4 times a week anyway. I saw his brother every other night, so it's kind of a good link. And he was a really good influence for me. But yeah, they're all coaches and managers, really, not really any sports science as yet, because I've not worked for anyone as an internship or anything like that.
No, that's really interesting. That Scott, what would you say your biggest skill is as a practitioner?
Well, continuity, like I said, I think kind of having a personal relationship with the players as well. So I lived with a couple of them last year, kind of keeping on the sofa type thing, kind of saved the commute a little bit. Um, Doing a little bit this year as well. The club have been brilliant with that. So it's kind of knowing the players, sharing lifts home, whether it's going to my missus in Oxford. A couple of them live in Oxford, we'll share lifts up and back and stuff like that. So you get to know them as people as well. And again, that then links into performance. While we're still looking for results, you understand why performance might be lower, or they're coming in fatigued, or they've just had a baby, or whatever it might. They're human beings. They've got a life at the end of the day. Just kind of understanding that side of it and being a bit more personable. They might not agree, but I think they're quite good at it.
Brilliant. I feel bad asking this one because you're only 23, but I always ask about giving advice to your younger self. But if you were to go back before you landed the role at Yeovil, is there anything that you'd sort of advise yourself on? Any key bits of advice you'd give?
Just let it happen. So don't try and force stuff. Don't try and force drills, or if it's not working, you can go, well, that didn't work, we'll change it. There's no kind of guarantee that you have to go into the role first time and it has to be perfect, and you're never going to have disagreements, and you're never going to have people telling you, or play, because players are quite good at feedback, as we all know. If they're not going how you expect it to go, they'll let you know. But it's kind of just let it happen. If it's not going the way you wanted it, or the way you planned it, or the way you were thinking about it on the drive in when you were kind of coming up with the drill, that's fine. It doesn't matter. If you're there every single day and you've got continuity, and you go again tomorrow and you go again the next day and you still prep properly, you can have a couple of ones that don't go your way early on, and you're not gonna get a knock on the manager's office after 2 weeks saying, "Oh, you're gonna have to go, mate." It's a process, and I kind of enjoy building and building and building. But yeah, the first 2 weeks don't go well. It's not the end of the world.
That feedback from players is not always going to be the most analytical and thought out, is it either? It's going to be pretty. No. It's going to be pretty to the point a lot of the time, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you give it them back, they appreciate that as well. I think the lads around them appreciate that as well. It's kind of, like I said, getting relationships and understanding them, knowing when you can give them a little bit of a jibe as well. It's a good skill to have.
Brilliant. Final one, mate. What is your approach to CPD? How do you go about continually developing, which will be interesting to hear your thoughts, because of being at a club in a department by yourself, not being surrounded by people, which is obviously a lot of what a lot of people have spoke about when I've asked this question, is learning from other sports scientists at the club, but also being so young and constantly looking for that development as well. So what's your approach to that?
Podcast. So yeah, an hour and a half commute every day, in and out. It's a good time to get a couple of podcasts in. Listen, like you say, I've listened to a few of yours. I kind of knew these questions are coming at the end as well. So I've been to a couple of the Federation days. So kind of I went to the Oxford one. I've been to Bristol City. You kind of get to know people. My main one is when we get loan players in, I'm straight on getting hold of their departments. So whatever club they're coming from, what have they done for the last couple of weeks? What's their loading program like? What do you do with them after games? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Kind of keep asking the same questions to as many clubs as possible. And we're in a position where we get quite a lot of loan players in. So I've had quite a lot of conversations with quite a lot of clubs, which is a good way for me. We had a couple of interns last year that I used. The closest university was Bath, which is just over an hour away. So we can't go down the road and get interns in every other week. So when you do get them in, I had sort of like a coffee club on a Thursday type thing. So anything that was coming up in the week, practically for them, it kind of not setting homework type thing, but go away and what can you find out about this, and then not report it to me, but can we have a conversation about it over a coffee on a Thursday morning, or on the bus on the way to the game, or whatever.
Yeah,
because they've got more time than me to go and find research and kind of back stuff up and stuff like that. And it's a good way for them to use research in a practical way as well. Kind of had a little coffee club going on, which was helpful for me and helpful for them. I think it was helpful for them as far as I'm aware. It's very helpful for me, kind of getting the research around it and backing stuff up and having conversations that you would get at university, which you might not get obviously if you're on your own and you've not got other sports scientists around you.
Brilliant, Scott. That has been superb, mate. Thanks for coming on. Just wrap us up with where you send people. If people have got questions or they want to reach out just for a chat, they want to create their own little coffee club, mate, where would you direct them?
Twitter's probably the best one. Just Scott Wickens. I think it's _ Scott Wickens _ or something like that. Something I made up, 5-6 years ago. Instagram, Scott Wickens again. LinkedIn, all the normal places, social media. That's where I find everyone else. So it seems to work. So that's probably the best place to get me.
Brilliant. Scott, thanks a lot for your time.
It's fine, mate. Thank you, Matt.